Early British Trackways, Moats, Mounds, Camps, and Sites, by Alfred Watkins. Place names. The lay and its sighting points were earlier than homesteads, hamlets, or towns, and as the latter evolved on the tracks, place names naturally bear traces of their origin. It is no reflection on philologists that, not knowing of the lay, they have made misinterpretations, and have a huge mass of corrections to make. In particular, they will find a past neglect in translating place names in the light of traders coming along the road and meeting the buyers at settled points. The man who brought the long-coveted gold ornaments might only come once a year, but to the women of the community the Gold Hill, Gold Post, or Golden Cross roads, where they met him, or the Golden Valley, along which he came, would be likely to take their names from his wares. There are 2 of each of the above gold place names in the county. The notes which follow must be taken rather as suggestions than as final conclusions. The common suffix, lay, indicates a lay of the character denoted by the first element in the name, and meadow is not, I think, the right interpretation. The numerous lays hills are not likely to be so called from meadows. The suffix, ton, originated by a markstone on the lay becoming the nucleus of the homestead, and perhaps later a town. The suffix, very clearly indicates a mound which was a sighting tump. It is a strange development that these tumps were coveted both as places to be buried in and to live on. Mrs. Gillespie, who lived at Trewin, Pondy, for 17 years, writes me, "I suppose you know that Trewin was built on a burial mound," and goes on to describe the discovery of the cist with human remains which they dug up under one of the rooms. I had told her how Trewin was on 2 lays, therefore on a sighting point, one being down the avenue of ancient pine trees straight for Altunis. Barrow, another mound name, occurs at Cradley, Pembridge, and Wheelbarrow Castle, Leominster. Canon Bannister shows that Colborough was formerly Colbarrow, and he also associates Barrow and Bury as from the same root. A variation is Barrow as in Broomsbarrow. Just as the sighting stone, Ton, became the site of Ermodam town, so the mound evolved into the borough. Low, the universal name for the mound in Derbyshire, is not so common here. But Wormlow, Tump, Ludlow, Warslow, and Bradlow indicate sighting points. Bury is used alone as the name for a tump, as in the many berry farms, or as at Ivington Bury. A farmer still calls the earth-covered tump in which he winters his roots a berry. Towns like Ledbury first grew round a sighting mound. Broom occurs with great persistence on lays, with its variations Brom and Bram. Bromley and Bramley, Bronton and Brampton, Bromfield, where is the old field with a number of tumuli, Brooms Green, Broomsbarrow, and the many Broomy Hills are examples. It is not confined to one form of sighting point, and I surmise, from a faint line of evidence, that a component part of our modern broom was an essential working implement of the skilled layman, and was continued as the staff of the medieval pilgrim. Whether the plant broom was the original root word or a derivative I cannot say. Lady Lift, a hill point mound, is on the lay with Lady Harbour Farm, and the prefix Lady is applied to court, grove, ridge, oak, and meadow in the county. The Lady Harbour of Hereford Cathedral is on one of the lays which form Church Street, and had the name before any church was built there. It might possibly indicate a woman's shelter on the road. The suffix, tree, probably originated in a single tree planted as a sighting point, either as at cross of the tree in Deerfold Forest, or to mark the apex of the natural hill as illustrated in Plate 12. Web Tree is on such a hill with 2 lays passing through it. Its name signifies that it is the spot where the web or weaver met his buyers. He travelled along the Webley, and there are 3 Webleys, formerly Webley, in the county, at Webley Ash, and Webley Cross, also the better-known townlet. He also met others at a markstone now known as Wedton. The surnames Webb, Webber, and Webster still survive. In the same way another first-word element gave the place names, and surnames from them, of Bosley, Cattleley, Boston, Bosbury, Boswell, Bostock, and Boscastle. Again, Stanley, Stanwell, Stanton, Stanbury, and Standoch. And I have shown how the White Salt Man gave the first element to innumerable place names on his route. There is a silver tump and a brass knoll in the Olchan Valley, both proved sighting tumps. The names Bowley, Bowling Green, Farm, also a quarry near Hugh's Herald, Bowletree, Bowlstone, Bowlingham, Balmuir, Ball's Cross, Ballgate, Bellgate, Bellymore, and Belmont all seem akin to the rounded outline of an inverted bull, or to boils, bowels, and belly of animal life, and indicate the rounded tump. The house at Bowletree is built on a tump with signs of a moat, and as I found a lay through Bowlingham, house and chapel, I went there to find the bowl, and there it was, a fine tump with an old summer house on its summit. Gate in the place name, as in Hillgate, Three Gates, Ballgate, England's Gate, Bitterley Gate, and so on, did not mean, as now, something which stopped a way that was called a lygat, but the way itself. It is much the same as the word pass. The same element, modified, is in such names as Gatley, Gatsford, Yatton, Simmons Yat, Widget's Cross. Leeline and Timberline Wood are place names clearly describing lays. There is a Linton and a Linley at Stanford Bishop, the Markstone and the Lay. I think that Lyonshall, Linhills, Lion Farm, and Hobby Lions are variations. Such names as Winslow, Preston Wyn, Winsley, and Wynyard, Radnor Forest indicate the road by which wine was brought. Totner, Totteridge, Tothill, and Tut indicate, as Mr. J.G. Wood has pointed out, tumps, and they are all citing tumps on lays. Mr. Wood, who has come very near discovering the lay, also in Willip Transactions for 1919, connects Titterstone, Clee Hill, Plate 1, with the word tot or toot. Tooting and Tottenham are London forms of the word. Rosemary Topping, English Bickner, is a much prettier name for a citing tump. Bur or burl seems to be descriptive of some form of sighting point. Lays pass through Burley, Burlton, Burton, many of this name, Burford, and the Burkett, and there is a Burl Hill in Radnorshire. Although a lay ran from peak to peak, there must have been an earlier termination to its useful part, or a still more restricted part used by traders. Hence, in London, Finsbury, Capeley Fin in the Black Mountains, and Fine Street, near Lytton, have probably the same meaning, which, however, seems to be locally more often expressed by the word end, as in New End, Canonpion, Red Y End, Cowarn, Newpend, and so on. As regards the place name element Broad, also Brad and Bread, play passes through Broad Green, Orleton, the Broad, north of Leominster, Broadward, south of Leominster, dead on the main road at each of these two, and onto Broadlands at Aylstone Hill, Hereford. It was the road, not the place, which was broad, constructed for wheel traffic, for which the previous pack-horse tracks were too narrow. Mr. Alan Bright, of Barton Court, Colewall, wrote me, pointing out that a lay from the Y through his house to Ledbury Church also ran through a meadow of his called Broadley Meadow. Such names as Bradley, Bradlow, Bradford, Broadmoor, Broadoak, and Bredwardine are thus explained. Probably most instances of the word elements, little and long, apply to the roads which pass through the places. Hereford is, no doubt correctly, said to mean Army Road. Little Hereford is not a small addition of the town, but of the road. Lightly is the small lay, longly is the long lay, and so with the Stone, Grove, Land, and Ford there have been two Longfords. Long in old spelling was often Lang, and Little, Luttle or Luttle, these from Canon Bannister's list. Hence come the places and surnames, Langstone, Langford, Langland, Langton, Lutley, Luton. The two Linethalls, Earls and Starks, are seldom called by these second names locally, but are Little Linethal and Long Linethal respectively. The element leaned, occurring also in Linetwardine, being I surmise derived from lay. Little Lanethale, to quote an old spelling, would be the meadow traversed by the short lay.